Working at Yum Brands for KFC Canada over the past 8 years has been an incredible experience for me. The industry is so fast-paced and has its unique set of opportunities and challenges. This has created an environment for both personal and professional growth, which I am truly grateful for. What inspires me the most is the amazing team that I get to work with. Every day, they bring with them huge amounts of heart, smart, and courage. And this truly inspires me as a leader. The other part of my world that inspires me is our family. We love spending time together, whether it's traveling, being active together, or simply trying new things. My son Caden and my daughter Sophia have this fearless sense of adventure. They are very open-minded to trying new things, and they inspire me to do the same. My family is my foundation and my support, and I am truly blessed for all of them. I often get asked this question: what is the best piece of advice that I've ever been given? It's simple but very powerful. Do what you love and love what you do. Settling for anything else is not an option, and I try to live by this every day.
Welcome, Nivera.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Good evening to all of you. When I was asked to speak at today's event several months ago, 2 thoughts came to my mind. The first one was, what career-defining moments or lessons learned could I share that would stimulate a change in how we think about the different aspects of our lives? The second thought was actually very different and very unexpected. It was a thought to share something much more personal, something deeply rooted in why I am who I am. And although I believe my first thought would be the expectation of what I share today, I truly hope that me leaning into my personal journey gives all of us here today a few things to consider, some meaningful things to consider, as we contemplate our continued journeys of both personal and professional growth. As I start today, I'm going to ask all of you to do something for me. For just a moment, transport yourself out of this room and into the story that I'm about to tell. Picture yourself at the age of 20. You are getting on a plane for the first time in your life to travel halfway across the world to a place that you've never been to before, to meet people whom you don't know, to start a journey that is very, very unclear. Fast forward 24 hours, you're landing in Montreal, Canada. You are experiencing your first taste of winter. And as your senses become numb from the bitter cold, you are shuffled off a plane onto a waiting school bus that is cold and dark. And you are told that you will be heading to a boarding house where you're going to spend one night before you continue your journey the next day. Sure enough, the next morning, you're put on a train on your way to Halifax, Nova Scotia, where you are told you are going to need to find a job. You are going to need to find a place to live. And you are going to need to start the first day of the rest of your life. That's emotional for me, because it's a true story. It's a story of my family. For many of us here today, it's the story of our families who immigrated here from East Africa in the 1970s and who now call Canada their home. I was told this story many, many times as a child, but not only until later in life did I fully appreciate the challenge that my family faced and the courage that they had to demonstrate. They had to demonstrate courage to leave everything they knew behind and to start a journey in a foreign land they knew nothing about. They had to demonstrate courage to learn a new language, to start new careers and new businesses, and to stand up to a society that not only didn't know who they were, but did not understand what they were going to. And with that realization, did I fully appreciate how blessed I was to be born in such an incredible country, to an amazing set of parents who, through their journey, their challenge, and their triumph, taught me 3 very important lessons. The first one, to always be on a self-motivated pursuit of knowledge, to always learn and to grow my smarts. The second lesson, to be the best person that I could be and always lean into my heart. And the third lesson, to always demonstrate courage and never underestimate what can be accomplished. We all may come from different backgrounds, different experiences, different challenges. And although in many ways it may seem that we are different, in many ways we are also very much the same. I truly believe, regardless of our differences or similarities, if we are open to it, all of us have the opportunity to build our knowledge and to grow our smarts. All of us have an opportunity to be our best selves and lean into our heart. And all of us throughout our lives will have the opportunity to demonstrate courage. And I'd like to share with you today how each one of those have impacted my personal journey. Let's start with SMART. Each of us here today has a background, whether it's through your education, your experiences, or a passion that you've pursued. My background, it's in finance. I've always loved numbers. I've always been really good at the numbers, and it was my place of focus throughout my educational career. Now, regardless of what your background is or how you end up attaining it, I call that your towering strength. It is something that you are good at and something that you truly enjoy. Throughout our lives, many of us will spend additional time and resources to build that towering strength, and that's great and should never stop. However, imagine the power of leveraging that towering strength and building additional skills and knowledge in areas you may have never considered before. Let me share a real-life example with you. I think it's something you can relate to. Our industry, the food service industry, is changing at an incredible pace. And what is driving that change is our customer. Our customer is expecting ease at every single interaction point with the brand. Ease in how they locate a store, ease in how they order a meal, ease on if that meal is delivered, how they pay for that meal, even on how they give feedback. And recognizing this trend and the enabler of it, my leadership team and I have spent several months, actually several years over the past couple of years, building our knowledge around the digital transformation of organizations. And what is driving that transformation is technology. Technology that exists today, but also technology which today you may not even be able to imagine that will exist in the future. Many of us have built key technical knowledge about the systems and the platforms that are impacting our brand. What has been the most powerful, however, is the data. With technology comes access to huge amounts of data. And it's in its simplest form, if you distill that down, data is a bunch of numbers, which is my towering strength. And what has been the most powerful for me is the ability to combine the data and the knowledge and technology and the insights that they drive about our brand and our guests. And for my team and I to be able to make decisions much more quickly, with increased amounts of agility and with much more confidence. And the impact has been very powerful. That is the true power of growing your smarts. It's about leveraging a towering strength that you already have and building additional skills and knowledge, maybe in places you never expected to before. I truly believe the more you know, the more you grow. And if you are open to the possibilities are endless. I'm now going to talk about heart, a word that is often not used in organizations. Why is that? Professional organizations are very interesting places. If you are driven, if you deliver results, if you are ambitious, you are rewarded. The connection is very clear. What is not clear, however, is the connection for those individuals and those leaders who are their genuine, authentic selves, who take the time to build meaningful relationships, who emotionally engage at work and have the courage to care. This thought is very powerful because at the core of leading with heart is putting our people, the we, before the me. Now, we do this in our personal lives all the time. As parents, we do this for our children. We put their needs and their desires before ours. Why then does this not come to life in professional organizations? I have a theory, and I think the reason is fear. In order to emotionally engage at work, it is often seen as a weakness, rather than a strength that actually builds trust and takes people on the journey with you. Let's be clear, leading with heart is not about being soft. It's not about being too nice or not holding others accountable. It's about understanding others through understanding their heart by engaging yours. It's about building meaningful connections and having the courage to care. About 10 years ago, I was invited to my first ever one-to-one with the CEO of a very large organization. And during that meeting, I talked about what I thought was the most important, all the key projects I was working on, the milestones I was delivering against, all the ways I felt I could be more valuable and more effective. And about 30 seconds into that conversation, he stopped me and he said, I see you've prepared a lot, and I'm looking forward to getting to everything on that sheet. But I really want to spend some time just getting to know you. I was embarrassed, I was shocked, and very uncomfortable. And in realizing that, he said to me, tell me a little bit about your family. You have kids, right? And that's when the floodgates opened. I talked about my children and how being a mom of 2 young children had changed my life. I talked about my husband and his entrepreneurial spirit and how I'd learned so much from him. I talked about my parents and life growing up and my brother, who I was so proud of. I even talked about the anxieties and fears I was having coming back to work as a full-time working mom. He listened intently, and what he did next is what surprised me the most. He shared some meaningful details about his family. He told me about his children and how traveling around the world for work had impacted their lives. He told me about his wife and how she had fully supported their career. He even shared with me a challenge he was having within the organization, a decision that he was just about to make, which would have a huge impact, which he was unsure about. He even asked my opinion. Really? Did this CEO care what I thought? This was something that I was totally not expecting. I've reflected over this conversation many times over the past 10 years, and a few things have stood out to me, and I try to live by them today. The first one is, this CEO of a company took the time to build a meaningful relationship with me. He was humble. He was vulnerable. He showed that he cared. And because he did, he built trust. I can't give you a manual on how to lead with heart, because it truly comes from the heart. However, I believe if all of us take the time to invest in building meaningful relationships, if we show courage to emotionally engage with work, to emotionally engage with our colleagues and show people that we care, we are able to build an environment that only not brings out the best of ourselves, but also brings out the best in others. And when you combine the two of those, that is a very powerful place. I'm going to end today on the word courage. The word itself has many different meanings. It comes in many different shapes and forms. It can be loud and apparent. It can be soft and even go unnoticed. But at its core, courage cannot exist without fear, and it exists in the core of who we are. The type of courage I'd like to talk about today is personal courage. The personal courage to not let your fears get in the way of accomplishing your dreams and defining who you are. In 2010, I was at the junction point in my life. I was a wife and a mom to 2 young children, 2 beautiful children, the youngest 6 months old. And although that defined where I was in my life, it didn't define who I was. Who I was definitely a wife and a mom, but also an individual that was looking for ways to grow myself personally and to have a meaningful impact outside of the home. And what I didn't know is what caused the most fear. Where was I going to start? Would I be successful? Wasn't I already behind and becoming irrelevant? How was I going to manage work with these new responsibilities I had at home? Would I be judged? And for several months, these fears were absolutely paralyzing, and I did absolutely nothing. And after months of having extreme levels of low self-confidence and a lack of clarity of what I wanted to do, I came to one very powerful conclusion. How was any organization out there going to consider me to add value to theirs if I wasn't able to embrace my own fears and embrace my story and value myself? So that is what I did. I mustered up the courage to embrace my story. My story was I was feeling guilty about contemplating having a job outside of the home, taking time away from my family, especially my children. I was feeling outdated and left behind, especially as I compared myself to my male colleagues, whose careers were several years ahead of mine, making the journey ahead feel absolutely steep and overly challenging. And I had a fear of being judged, particularly by those that don't believe that full-time working women can be good moms. And only embracing those fears was I able to find the strength to understand them and have the courage to move forward. The guilt I was feeling for my family is because I loved them. And I was feeling guilty about letting them down. But I found courage in my family's support and motivation, particularly in that of my husband, who was my biggest supporter then and continues to be today. The fear of feeling outdated and irrelevant gave me the courage to seek out organizations that were heavily invested in growing and developing their teams, no matter what part of the organization you were in or what level you were at. And the fear of being judged forced me to have the courage to look at my own self-worth, not through the eyes of others, but through my own goals and through what made me happy. Since 2010, I've had an amazing career. I am so grateful for all the opportunities and the support that I've had. But even today, as a leader in an organization, I'm often faced with fears and challenges that I must lean into and overcome. The fear of making the wrong decision, the fear of being criticized and being judged, the fear of not making any decision at all, the fear of failure and the impact that it will have on my organization and on all those around me. But this is a part of the leadership journey. These fears never go away, but only in being open to them and embracing them do I often find the courage to be my best self and find the strength to move forward. I end with the word courage today, but really the word courage is at the beginning. It takes courage to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, outside of your towering strength, and to build your smarts. It takes courage to be a genuine and authentic individual, particularly in an organization, and to lead with your heart. It takes courage to embrace your fears and to not allow them to stand in the way of getting your goals and defining who you are. That is my story. We all have our own stories. And although in many ways we may seem different, in many ways we are also very much the same. And throughout our lives, we may have the opportunity to take a leap into the job of our dreams, or take a leap to start the business of our dreams, or take a leap to pursue the passion of our dreams. And what is within the reach of all of us here today is our ability to build our knowledge and to lean into our smarts, our ability to be the best people that we can be and lean into our heart, and our ability to take a leap and our ability to have courage to take that leap so that we may fully realize our dreams. Thank you.